And today on Talk to Us Today, we will be discussing something that's of great importance: education. As
Yes.
soon as a child is born, one of the major points of discussion is, Namita, normally about education, right? What school will
Yes.
the child go to? And these discussions sometimes just start in the hospital when
Oh
the
my
child's like a few hours old.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Talk to Us Today. I'm Namita.
And I'm Simrit. And today on Talk to Us Today, we will be discussing something that's of great importance: education. As soon as the
Yes.
child is born, one of the major points of discussion is, Namita, normally about education, right? What school will the child
Yes.
go to? And these discussions sometimes just start in the hospital when the child's like
Oh
a
my
few hours old.
no, I remember I don't know, it happened the admission registration started happening the moment the child is born.
Yes,
There are schools.
and in some schools, even when you're pregnant, you got to put your name down for the waiting list. Craziness, man. I
Yeah.
tell you. Anyway, so people are discussing what school will the child go to, what kind of teaching methods work, how early should we start school, when do we start basic education at home, does homeschooling work? Oh my God, the discussions are endless, absolutely. And the point of views are different too, because like everyone has their own opinion. And parents are very passionate about education because all of us feel it lays down the foundation for the success of our children, right? And earlier, selecting a
Absolutely.
school was way easier. Like our parents are sitting there going, we never thought so much, because if you were in a certain country or city or county, normally all the schools would be basically teaching the same board, using the
Yeah.
same traditional teaching styles, and like using the same books, the same textbooks. But with time, teaching methods have evolved. And with this, we have different boards of education, even here in India, right?
Yes, that's true. And as an example, in India, the primary boards are CBSC, that's Central Board of Secondary Education Council for the Indian School Certificate Examinations.
Right.
Then we have different state boards, and now few schools across India also follows a curriculum set by international boards such as uh, International Baccalaureate,
Yeah, the IB
that's
program.
IB, and that IGCSC, that's International General Certificate of Secondary Education. Yeah,
Right.
you know, But as a parent, we are always confused whether we can offer something different to our kids.
Right.
So today, to help us understand different education boards better, we have with us Rohanna Kohli, Director, Banyan Steiner Waldorf School. Yes, Waldorf is a new name that you just heard, and she discovered Waldorf education when her daughter was 2 years old, and she was deeply moved by Steiner philosophy and pedagogy. She has experienced the benefit as a parent for past 4 years now, and then she decided to make Waldorf education accessible to more and more families in the society. Welcome, Rohanna. Welcome to Talk to Us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
Welcome, Rohanna. Thank you so much for joining us. So tell me again, what's you're the director with which school here? It's in Noida, right?
It is in Noida. The name of the school is Banyan Steiner School.
Okay,
Oh, we
cool.
say
So let's start right off into the hardest part of this discussion. What is Waldorf education? For most of us, until I didn't meet you earlier, I didn't even know about this. So tell us about it. What's different about it? What sets it apart?
Sure. Okay. So Waldorf Education got the name Waldorf from the place it was started in, Waldorf Astoria Cigarette Factory, which is in Stuttgart, Germany. That's the place where the first school was opened.
Oh, wow.
And yes, it is based on the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner. He was an Austrian philosopher,
Okay.
and he had a deep understanding about a human being, and he understood why, when the child is born, the child behaves a particular way, and as the child progresses, how this education can meet the child, where the child is, meet the requirements. So this education is based on his philosophy. This is about more than 100 years old, and in India it has been present for more than 2 decades. In
Wow.
South there are many such schools. North India is picking up now. Even in North India, it has been there since last a decade now. This education focuses on the physical needs, the emotional and the mental needs of a child. We take into account the whole human being. So, for example, 0 to 7, when the physical growth of the child is maximum, so we focus more on giving that child movement while the child is learning, right? So there is a lot of beeswax modeling that they do. They bake bread or cookies. They play with a lot of sand. They do a lot of singing. There's a lot of rhythm that we focus on. And the theme for 0 to 7 years for kindergarten is beauty. So everything is presented in a very beautiful manner. We use only natural materials in kindergartens, like there will be no plastic, right? So they play with natural wooden toys, which are open-ended. So the blocks can make, thousands of designs. There's no particular
They
way
like
to play with
drawers
the
and
blocks. A lot of
stamps because
imagination
if
the child
they'll
can
like
use to play with these toys. A lot of natural materials like
all
felt is
fairy
used,
tale. It's from all
silk
fairy
is
tale.
used, right? So this is the focus in kindergarten. Academics is brought into their life later. And the major milestone when we know the child is ready for academics is fall of teeth, change of teeth.
Okay.
So they do
Wow.
not
That's so
they do
interesting.
not really follow, yes, the biological age of the child. They see, because every child is developing at a unique pace. So they have to consider each child's need at that moment, right?
Hang
And
on.
the child is
Sorry. So does that mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So does that mean that you have an individual way of teaching each child?
not really individual way, but all these different temperaments, different kind of personalities, children, they come together, and it's a very healthy mix in a batch. And in kindergarten we do vertical grouping. So age wise, you have a 3-year-old also in the kindergarten, and then you will find a 6.5 or even a 7-year-old also in
Oh,
kindergarten.
wow.
So the youngers, they learn from the elders, and the elders, they learn to care for
Oh,
younger, to become more responsible. Because the child, basically 0 to 7, if you notice, even in your own household, the child is imitating. Okay, so the teacher basically just needs to role model for the child, and then the child just imitates, and then they process the information in their limbs. So you will see these children, they do a lot of pretend play. And this is not specific to a world of school I'm talking about. You can experience this even in your own house, in your own homes.
right.
They will see their mother cooking, so they would want to cook. They would see their father doing something, some cleaning job, they would want to do exactly the stuff the elders are doing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is unique, yet they
So,
come together and
okay.
they
So
make a
what
very nice.
happens after 7? Like after the teeth fall? So what happens then?
After 7, then they are formally inducted to academics, which basically means grade 1. They begin with their alphabet, they begin with their numbers, all those things. However, even in kindergarten, they're not directly being taught. Let's say this activity, for example, okay, baking bread. So the child knows that they will take dry flour and then mix water with it. The form of that flour will change, it will turn into a dough, and then you leave it aside to rise, and then after that you put it in heat, okay, and then something comes out of it, right? It's bread, something that you eat. So this is the purposeful play based activity which has already sown the seeds of science. So when the child will be formally learning science, the physical change, the chemical change of matter, they will be able to relate with it. The curriculum is living, So what we have done in kindergarten, it's very unfolding. It will continue to grow with the child as the child progresses to higher grades.
Okay.
So 0 to 7, I mentioned, it's imitation based, beauty is the theme, lot of physical activity, purposeful play. They do finger knitting, they do
Yeah.
a lot of music. And then 7 to 14. Okay, they're doing academic, but this academic is also not directly like, they're not made to sit. There's a lot of movement there as well. Art is a medium to teach. Body movement is a medium to teach. Stories, they're a medium to teach. So these children, the very holistic approach. So every kid, every child in a Waldorf school would play a flute. Then they progress to playing string instruments, and it's part of the curriculum. This is not something special in a class that they do during the main lesson only. When they're learning their alphabet, they're learning their sentence formation, they're learning their math, they're learning their language, whatever. Music, stories, they're integrated, they're interwoven in the curriculum.
Okay.
Wow. Well, it is a very different method if you compare it with traditional style of education. Do you think certain type of children will benefit more from Waldorf education? Um,
So we have, it's an inclusive approach, of course. Since, the children are not forced to sit through, and learn when the teacher is writing on the board or through auditory medium, because they experience, right, whatever they're learning, they have to experience that with their own hands. The medium is such. So we have seen, there are studies that have been done. Children who come up with issues like ADHD, children with dyslexia and all that, they perform better with this medium.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
The way you're telling me that really, this is just like, oh my God, this is something. This is how I have taught so many things to my son, and this is how I've seen people teaching kids who have some learning disability. They have challenges in understanding concepts or styles or of the the current mainstream education system. Yeah, that's
So,
really wonderful.
Namita, I would say these are not special need children. They just learn differently. That's about it, because the
Yeah.
majority, is learning a particular way. And these people, these children, they're like smaller in number. So we label them as special need child. There's nothing like that. I don't believe in that.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's music. That's music to my ear. There are very few people who really look would they think like this. There are very few people, Rohanna. I really liked it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me this, like in India, I just because most of our viewers are from India, when and this goes worldwide, like when a child graduates from grade 12 here, would they be at par with the syllabuses from the other boards? Because acceptability into universities and things like that matter to parents
Okay.
when they're selecting a school.
That's a very valid, very important question for parents to know what happens if the child is learning through a very different medium.
Correct.
So the style, teaching methodology, that is different. But what we are teaching is actually in sync with the curriculum that has been defined by the Ministry of Education for India, right? So up to grade 5, we do, we follow our own curriculum. However, post grade 5, we slowly start bringing in the curriculum from the board that we affiliate with. So these schools that I'm talking about, which have been present in India for the last almost 2 decades now, they are affiliated with boards like CBSE, boards like IGCSE.
Okay.
Yes. So eventually, this merges into the mainstream. Okay. It starts off on a different note.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. Yes. But eventually they all have to eventually take that board examination, right? So this is the situation as of now. If the education policy
That's
changes.
good to know, because when they're younger, many parents feel we don't want to burden our young children with so much information right away. Like, let them grow a little bit. Like when I was growing up in Canada, I don't know how the systems are now. This was a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago when I was growing up. But it was a lot more easier till grade 4 or 5 till I was there. and then they started putting in more content. So there was a lot of play involved, and I think that's similar to what you're saying, but even less formally.
Yeah.
Probably. Interesting.
Yes, a lot of play. We do not have competitions. Okay, we don't believe a child competing with another child, because everybody has a unique talent. There is no need to have competitions up to grade 5. They do not have textbooks. The teacher has to prepare, the teacher has to bring the lesson to the child. They don't study from books. It's the teacher's responsibility. And they do not even have exams because every day the teacher is observing the child. Okay, so exam, what happens during an exam, right? In that particular time period, if you have not answered those questions, then you're labeled, then you're given marks. But the child knows maybe that particular moment the child was not feeling very good.
Or even if they
Yeah,
don't know, maybe like a lot of the teachers now, the new pedagogy, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but
pedagogy, yes.
yeah, the new pedagogies say, well, the teacher should be blamed if the kid's not picked up because she's not, especially in the smaller schools, like, where the classroom is 15 to 20, then it's the teacher's duty to make sure that, till a certain age. After that, of course.
That I have experienced myself, Simrit. I went for this workshop, wet on wet painting,
Yes.
with
at Rohanna School.
That's how, yes, that's how this whole thought of talking about it, and people should know about it. So I saw that the way the teacher was teaching, or not teaching, I would say she was painting with a story. Okay, there's blue color, and he was roaming around, and suddenly he found the red, and then this happened. And like, oh my God, they're just it's just like they're painting this. It's not a painting; it's a story.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So that was very interesting.
So they should contact you if the parents want to get to know, if they want their child to learn in a more free environment at least.
Oh, yes.
Also, not just for the child. I say this is stress-free even for the parents, because they're not making projects. Children are assigned these assignments, and parents, they end up doing. So it's stress-free for the children, stress-free for the entire family. The child gets to being, right? The child is being a child. So the childhood should not be snatched away in the name of education.
Absolutely.
That's true. Cool. So, Rohanna, there's one thing that's just coming to my mind. What kind of changes would you see in a kid who have been taught in this style of education? If you compare, kids who have been taught in a, the traditional style of education. So, do you think we can observe something different in a child in overall growth?
I have experienced this myself, that children who are taught with this pedagogy, this methodology, they are much more stress-free. They're more creative in their thinking, and they're less competitive. They accept, other children in a better way, because they're not pitched against each other, right? There's no stress of performance and outdo or outperform another friend of theirs. Yeah, and they're very stable emotionally. And I tell you something very interesting about a Waldorf child. So in a regular school, these children, they write in rule sheets, right?
Yeah.
So children in Waldorf schools, they do not write on rule sheets, right? And they take very long to orient, in their body, how big the letters should be spaced and next to each other. And after a while, not even 1 mm up and 1 mm down, without rule sheets, they can write so beautifully. So they develop this rhythm in the body. So you will find these children, creative and logical. I mean, left and right hemispheres, both developing simultaneously. They're not one-sided.
That's very interesting.
That's very interesting, yeah, and very deep understanding of this whole thing, Rohanna. I mean, nobody would really think like that when you're writing, how the right and left hemisphere.
Can you believe such a simple thing, but it can bring such a huge difference?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Rohanna, for joining us today and enlightening us on such a wonderful educational board. Like, It sounds so much freer, stress-free. It actually sounds
Yes.
paradise, like paradise, right? And that would be wonderful. It's such an enriching session. So for any details about Rohanna, guys, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, the Banyan Steiner School in
Yes.
Yeah.
the link is given in our description box. Her numbers will be given. And that's all from Talk to Us Today for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We always look forward to hearing from you guys. So if there's anything that you guys like about our episode, please message or comment in the comment section below or email us. And
yes, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to stay notified of our new videos every Friday at 6 p.m. Thanks for joining us on Talk to Us Today. Remember to talk about Talk to Us Today. Yeah. Keep smiling.
Keep laughing. Keep shining.
And most important, keep talking.
Keep talking. Thank you, Rohanna.
Thank you.
Bye. See you guys next Friday.